Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today I'm going to give you a guide to anabolic steroids and hair loss. I'm going to go over how steroids can cause hair loss, then I'm going to go over some of the worst steroids for hair loss. But before we get into that, I have to reiterate, I am not a doctor, so anything I say in these videos is for your entertainment purposes only. What you do with this information is completely and utterly up to you, and I am not advising nor condoning you to use any of the things that we discuss in any way, shape, or form. So let's get right into it. Now, although DHT or dihydrotestosterone is considered the primary cause of male pattern baldness or MPB, there are certain types of steroids that can and will accelerate hair loss due to high levels of DHT. But you've got to keep this in mind. If you are genetically predisposed to MPB, any steroid is likely to give you an issue, or at least can. So just keep that in mind. So when I go over certain steroids that are worse, let's say you're prone to male pattern baldness and you're getting hair loss from steroids that you really shouldn't expect to, well, all rules and bets are off if you're prone to it. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. So let's kind of get into how steroids can actually cause hair loss. First things first, there is a misconception out there about steroids that I've got to get out right now. Steroids do not cause hair loss themselves. They can just accelerate potential hair loss if your follicles are genetically prone to male pattern baldness due to increasing levels of DHT within your body. So, though not all steroids cause hair loss, there are certain steroids that will raise levels of DHT in your body, which in fact will lead to significant hair loss. Now, this means that if your hair follicles are genetically programmed to withstand higher levels of DHT, using steroids won't affect your hair at all. Look, there are people that can stack every DHT out there. They can run a stack of testosterone, Primo, Masteron, Winstrol, whatever the case, all at once. Zero issues. None. And there are people that literally almost cannot even be in the same room as one of those and will get hair loss. And, you know, like I said, if you are prone to it, you just have to prepare yourself. I know there's people out there that really don't care, that like to be bald, and so this really doesn't even apply to them. But I know there's a ton of people that, you know, are really highly worried about hair loss. I know I would be. I do keep my hair shorter now, but, you know I would, be quite upset if I had any sort of hair loss. And I get questions, comments, I see it in forums. I mean, over more than a decade, it's one of the primary concerns out there. You know, it's acne, hair loss, suppression recovery. These are the main, focuses that people have or concerns when it comes to anabolic steroid use. So, as I mentioned, certain steroids are just notorious for causing hair loss, while other steroids really don't carry the risk at all. But remember the disclaimer there, if you're prone to MPB, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to give you a list of steroids that are more likely to cause hair loss, and these are going to be your more DHT-related steroids. Your Anadrol, your Anavar, Masteron, Primobolan, Winstrol, Proviron. But you have to be aware that D-bol and Trenbolone will also fall into this list as well, even though they're not necessarily DHT derivative steroids. They still have that, effect on people. And look, higher androgenic steroids too are also going to come into play here, and Tren obviously is on that list. So steroids that might cause hair loss but not as likely, you're looking at your Equipoise, your Deca, testosterone, T-bol, for example. What else am I missing? Halotestin. So these are also, I hate to say probable because they're not probable, but they could cause hair loss. So, I just have to cover all of that, whether they can or cannot. I would say to you that any steroid, like I said, can cause it, but those DHTs that I listed, and it seems to me that Anavar and Proviron, although they're on that list, they're not going to, affect people nearly as much as a Primobolan, a Winstrol, a Masteron will, and Anadrol. Those four seem to be the worst. Tren also sneaks in there, and D-bol, like I pointed out. I know I put Anavar and Proviron on that list, and they belong on that list. They are DHTs, but they don't seem to be quite as bad when it comes to hair loss. Now, although non-DHT steroids do have that lower probability of causing hair loss, I've seen plenty of people that start to see it quite quickly that aren't even prone to MPB. It's just, there is no 100% guarantee when it comes to this, and really with anything when it comes to steroids. Now, I've done some hair loss videos, and I've also discussed post-finasteride syndrome and not using things like finasteride, dutasteride, but, and trust me, if you write me, if you come to me, if you ask me, if you pay me, because, I coach and I do plenty of coaching and I have plenty of clients, there are certain things that if you offer me money, I will not advise you to do. I don't care if the money's not worth it to me. Like clenbuterol, for example. So many people have paid me to advise them on clenbuterol, or at least offered me to, and I just simply will not do it. Same thing with finasteride and dutasteride. I will not advise you to use those. There is no amount of money that is worth it to me to advise you to do this. All right? But I do have to give you lists of things that could help to prevent hair loss. Just understand this. I do not recommend finasteride, dutasteride, Proscar. I don't recommend these, but these are all on the list of things that can help prevent hair loss. Anti-DHT creams, once again, I don't think are a good idea. Minoxidil, maybe the best on the list that I've listed, still don't prefer it. Rogaine, things like that, still don't prefer it. These are not, it's one of those things where I don't feel that attempting to prevent hair loss with these drugs is worth it for the side effects that can occur and the long-term problems that you can have. So it's kind of a catch-22. To me, if you're prone to MPB, it's like, hey, you either deal with it or you don't use steroids and you go to something like SARMs, HGH, different forms of PEDs. I am really sorry if that comes across like, well, he doesn't have an answer. I gave you the answer on what you can use. I also gave you the recommendation that I don't recommend using them and what it is. Sometimes there's things that come along with these that you deal with or you don't, and you look at risk versus reward and you weigh out your options. And I do not see the risk of keeping your hair with something like finasteride, for example. The reward could be a lifelong, path of issues and problems. Go back and watch my post-finasteride syndrome video and you'll understand what I'm talking about, because that is a reality. It is a very big reality. And there are people that are blessed that have taken finasteride without any issues. But there's a slew of people that have had the problem, and you can go and read in comments there. You can go on forums. You can see all the reports of people that, it has caused people to commit suicide. It's so bad. And you can go to the post-finasteride syndrome website and see all the statistics. And I read them off before. I don't have, the time to get into all that now because I've already done that video, but you can go back in and look at that and you can see for yourself exactly what I'm talking about and why it's such a big deal to me. Just remember this. There's always a chance of hair loss with steroids. Some people far worse than others. So that's, basically hair loss and steroids for you 101, the best that I can do it in the shortest amount of time, making it as easy as possible. So that being said, www.icearms.com/forums. I'm also on the evolutionary forum as well as the elite fitness forum. You can also email me, Dylan@icearms.com, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli, signing off.